Hello and welcome to another special episode of the Woollentwine Fiber Studio knitting podcast. My name is Jule and I'm the dyer and maker behind Woollentwine Fiber Studio, which is a small creative space located here in northern Germany where I play with natural dyes and natural yarns. Today is another little special episode, so nothing knitting related, but rather a little preview of a special project that I've been working on in the past couple of months, and that I want to preview to you because it kind of requires a little bit of story time. I'm sorry if I sound a bit weird. I'm battling a cold since, I don't know, 1.5 weeks or so, and I thought it was gone about mid of last week, but it came back in full swing this weekend, and so I'm pretty miserable if I'm honest. But I still wanted to get this video out to you to, show you what we've been working on, because it's something very special and something that's very dear to my heart. So I want to get it out there anyways, despite the sniffly nose and slightly weird sounding voice, I guess. This project, I don't know how familiar you are with what we usually like to do around the festive season, but we like to have a special project around the festive season, nothing like a countdown calendar or so, but rather like a box with several goodies in it that would celebrate the festive season. And even though it might seem a little bit early, we have to kind of launch now in order to have it out in a reasonable time frame for our international customers. So if you are already feeling festive, feel free to grab a warm beverage and potentially your knitting and sit down with me while I chat you through what we prepared for this year's festive special. So first of all, just so you know the facts about it, the festive special festive winter box will launch this Friday, November 10th at 8 p.m. CET. That is the Berlin time zone, and please make sure you check your how do you say that, time zone converter thingy, because we've just had, as you know, a change in the clocks for 1 hour, so just in case you're already used to when you have to check in for the shop updates, it might be an hour different now, so just double check your time zone converter in case you're unsure what time it might be. But yeah, this Friday, 10th of November 2023 at 8 p.m. CET. And this year's festive special is a bit tied to our new sock yarn Ovis, as we've launched a series of sock boxes for the last couple of months. Beginning in the August, we had these special boxes every month where I teamed up with designers and other makers for notions and such, who created something inspired by a special theme each month. And since I wanted to end this whole series with a big project, I thought it's nice to kind of have a hybrid between the November sock box and our festive winter box. So this is what we did. So it will be the November sock box, but in a slightly larger format for the festive special. And I will get to what will be in this box, because it will be a box. with several goodies, and I will get to you what's in there in a second. But first of all, I will have to tell a little story, because one particular thing in this box has a bit of a backstory that I kind of have to tell, because it's very special and very dear to my heart. So without further ado, I guess let me jump into this little backstory thingy. So the backstory starts with, let's say, a ruined yarn. And that sounds very sad. For those of you who don't know, I do produce my own yarns from local sheep fleeces. I source them myself, I get them to a mill, and I get it spun and curate a yarn blend every now and then. And I think it had to have been in the end of 2021 that I had the chance to get my hands on a batch of beautiful local Jacob's wool from a lovely hobby shepherdess who had a flock that had the right size for me, because I do have, you know, I need a certain minimum to make it all worth. So she had a beautiful flock of wildcat for Jacob's sheep, and I was very lucky to get my hands on her fleeces. And so with a lot of happiness in my heart, I was thinking of what I wanted to create from these fleeces. And in this year, I had also visited a new mill that I wanted to work with. And you know, sometimes I'm quite brave with these things, but I kind of like a challenge. And so without knowing the mill more than just having visited them once, I was brave enough to send the whole batch, the whole yearly shearing of fleeces to that new mill. And I knew that things would be a little bit different, because it's a different type of mill that I was working with. But I was just really excited and eager to see what they would turn these beautiful fleeces into. The fleeces were of really great quality. I was super happy with them. And so I sent them off. And that all still was, I think, end of 2021. And I knew that this mill had slightly longer turnaround times, but still, since I wasn't really in a hurry with this batch of yarn, I was like, okay, let's see what they are going to turn it into. And so I shipped the beautiful fleeces there, and yeah, around 13 months later, I received an invoice and a note that the yarn was ready. And I was super happy about it. So I was really excited. I was like, okay, let's ship it out there. I want to see it. And I was really, really excited. And so they shipped the yarn. And when I opened the box, my heart broke a little bit, because from what I saw at first glance, I knew that this would be a problem. Let's say it that way. So I don't know how aware you are of how Jacob's sheep look, but they are they have two colors in their fleeces usually, and they usually are, you know, as if they had a white base and then some big black spots and brown spots on it, and usually it results in a beautiful medium gray. Actually, I have a little sample here, so let me show you. In a beautiful medium brown gray wool. So this is what a Jacob's fiber should look like once it's carded properly. And one of the challenges is the carding of this yarn, because, or these fleeces, because you have to card them through quite thoroughly, otherwise you will end up with different shades. And so this is what happened with the yarn. There were a couple of issues with the yarn, also starting with the fact that it was not spun to the correct weight that I was anticipating. And I know that it's a bit difficult to kind of, you know, hit a certain meterage like to the point, but I gave a range, and the range was pretty big, I would say, and it was off the range. So I was already a bit devastated at that, because I knew that before the yarn arrived. Then it arrived, and not one skein looked like the other. It looked beautiful, it felt beautiful, I did like it, but all of the skeins had different colors. Like, it was not blended to the point that it was a cohesive shade all over, but the shades of the skeins were very different. And so I was like, I was a bit afraid, because some were light gray, some were dark gray, some were medium gray, some were, I don't know, marled in a light gray and a dark gray. So it was just, first I tried to group them into categories and was like, okay, maybe I can make like several shades of it, but it didn't work. And I still wanted to swatch and sample and see what I can do with the yarn, and I swatched it and my mom started to sample in it, and even within one skein there were two colors. So there was like a big stark line. I don't know if I still have a picture of it here, but I will, if I have, I will put it somewhere. But it had like a stark line of color change, and yeah, at this point I knew that I could not dye or sell this yarn with what my quality control or whatever, what I expect in quality of a yarn. And it was devastating. I was really desperate at first, because not only was this a big financial loss, because, you know, my spinning runs are not necessarily super small anymore, and there were quite a few kilos that I had spun in this way. And yeah, there were more issues, but I'm not going to go into detail too much. It was just that also the spinning was irregular, and the tying, despite me telling the mill how to tie the yarn ties, because it kind of, if they are too tight, you can end up with the dye not penetrating at the point where the tie is, and then you can end up with, you know, a yarn where there are splotches of undyed yarn because it has been tied too tightly. And that didn't work either. So, you know, at this point I was like, not only is this unsellable for me and a big financial loss, but what I was even more sad about was that I didn't know, you know, I felt as if I wasted these beautiful fleeces. And, you know, it's not easy to get hold of good quality, interesting breed fleeces here in Germany. And so I was devastated that these fleeces, you know, were kind of ruined or wasted. Yeah, but let me show you. This is how the yarn looked. And I don't know, it's bad to example it this way, but this is one shade, and then we had like 30 other shades in the boxes. So even though this might look okay to you now, it was the fact that this was not sellable for me. Some skeins were also worse than others, but overall it was not possible. And yeah, at first I was, of course, very discouraged, if I'm honest. Also because I had put a lot of trust in the mill, and I was, you know, I was still invoiced the amount. I did not get a refund of my deposit. And it's not that I want to brag about finances in this video too much, but you know, it is part of my business. I have to be careful about it, and wasting that amount of money and that amount of fleeces was something that I was really, really upset about. And I don't know, if I get upset or sad about something, I am this type of person that tends to be really stubborn. So I usually try, like, my first stages of whenever something happens that is bad, the first stage usually is that I try to, you know, I go into problem-solving mode almost immediately. While I'm probably angry inside, but I'll try to solve it as quickly as possible. And in this case, I was like, I have to get to something. I have to find a solution for it. And since this wasn't easy to find a solution for it, I was very stubborn and probably spent way too much time in researching what I could do. Because I kind of was, you know, I was really stubborn with the fact that I didn't want this fleece to go to waste. you know, it's my risk to put trust in someone who might not fulfill your task to the point that you would like it to be. But that was my risk. I did trust them. I did wrong in trusting them this way. And by the way, I'm not going to name anyone. I'm not this type of person that's trying to put shade on anyone. I'm not going to tell you who it was, just because, you know, no one deserves that, and it's not something I am up to. I just want to be transparent and tell the whole story to the fullest, because I feel like in this beautiful Instagram and YouTube world, sometimes the reality is a bit, you know, overshadowed by aesthetic appearances, and I want to be very transparent with this one. Also because I'm going out of my comfort zone here, but I'm telling about the thing that happened with it later. But yeah, I knew that for knitters, for hand knitters, and in the dyed form, I could not have achieved something that I would feel comfortable selling. And so I was thinking what we could do. And I spent days and days and days researching what might be possible to be done with this yarn. And after a couple of days, I had the idea to contact someone whom I was following on Instagram. And it was a local weaver. She is located around 45 minutes from where the studio is. And I knew that she is actually one of the last weavers in Germany that is properly, like, professionally taught a weaver, and she's also allowed to teach weaving. So she's like a properly educated weaver, not just a hobby weaver. Not that there's something wrong with hobby weaving, but I reached out to her and was like, you know, I stripped it all down and was like, I have this problem. I have this batch of yarn that's so and so big. Do you think we could do something with it? Do you think that the irregularities in the yarn would maybe be less visible in a weaving and in certain patterns that could be woven potentially? And Antje is the name of the weaver. I'm also going to put all her info below. Antje has great wisdom and a lot of knowledge about weaving and about fibers and about just everything that has to do with weaving. And I was in awe of what she knew and her wisdom and her knowledge. And she was so kind to offer me to check if we could weave something from it. So I sent her a couple of test skeins and she did a little bit of test weaving, and luckily it was possible. So we figured out it might be possible to turn this yarn into a woven cloth. And I decided to, because I wanted to understand the craft before I would go take that step and get the yarn spun, because it was also a very big chunk of money to spin this much, get this much yarn hand spun. And so I wanted to get into the craft and get to know the craft. And so I booked a little session with Antje, and actually we gifted a little course to my mom as well. So I was joined by my mom and my sister, and we were all three weaving for the first time at Antje's studio, and it was incredibly inspiring. And I'm in awe of her skills and what she can do with her weaving. And yeah, after that, meeting her, spending the day with her, and also trying the craft myself, we were sampling a couple of things and, planning a couple of things, and decided to go for it and to get the yarn spun into a cloth. And at first we were trying to just combine the natural color of the yarn with itself, with a pattern, but it kind of looked a bit dull and a bit, I don't want to say boring, but it was just a bit, muted. And therefore we decided to go the extra mile, as if this whole project wasn't a crazy journey already. I decided to dye half of the big batch of wool in one color so Antje could weave with 2 colors. So I ended up dyeing the yarn in this shade as well. So we could have these 2 shades together. And without further ado, let me show you some samples. And so for this journey, it went from pretty much this to this, to then this, and last but not least, this. And I am absolutely in love with how the fabric turned out. This was a big sample weave that Antje did with several different patterns. I'll check if I can show you another one. Here is like a chevrony kind of pattern. And then she made one with like ornaments, just so we could see what works with this rather low contrasty kind of color combination. And I was so thankful to actually see it, because it was really difficult for me to visualize what fabric might work. And yeah, then we settled on a pattern, and a couple of months later a big box of fabric arrived. It was the first batch, because Antje had to split it into batches to make it doable for her. I mean, it was a crazy labor. I just did a few hours of weaving, and it is physical labor, I can tell. And she wove, she wove it in batches. And we had another, we had the box delivered, and we have another yet to come. So it's gonna be a lot of fabric. But I opened the box and I was in awe of how it resulted, because, you know, I was really surprised at how soft it was and how bouncy, and how, yeah, I mean, from this yarn that was just a complete nightmare to this fabric that was just so beautiful and well made and wonderful quality. I was so happy. And I knew that at this point I really didn't look into how to somehow make this financially make sense for me in my business, but I was just so happy that we were able to save the yarn and the fleeces. And yeah, now it was my turn to find out a way on how I could make it accessible for you, and, you know, let you take part in this crazy journey of local fleeces being spun locally, being naturally dyed, and then woven locally. I wanted to, of course, invite you to be a part of this and kind of create a product that you could use for your knitting, and that you would connect to. So I ended up, I don't know if I've ever told you, but I actually learned how to sew before I learned how to knit. And I do sew some of my own clothes, and I decided, why not combine my crafts and sew something that would be usable for knitters. And without further ado, let me show you the outcome, or let's say a bag of this beautiful fabric. I'm sorry if it's wrinkly. I've been actually using it to make sure it's going to be up to my standards. But we made this fabric over, by now, what's 2 years? And let's put this into like a celebratory mood that we were able to save this yarn and the fleeces despite them being ruined, or that they were ruined. And I want to celebrate that with you, and wanted to add some of the bags to our festive box. So I also made these pouches, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about that later, but they have a zipper at the top from like a very high quality brassy kind of colorway. And that was because I kind of didn't want to waste even more of this precious fabric. Sorry, the battery of my camera just died. So what I was saying is that I was trying to cut, you know, out in the fabric in a way that we could make use of all the little scraps and also, you know, turn them into something smaller that would be usable as well, to not waste any of this precious fabric that has undergone so many processes and was handled by so many crafters on its journey. So, but yeah, why am I telling you all this? It's gonna be part of our festive winter box and November sock box hybrid, and I'm going to tell you a bit more about that one now. So since this festive winter box is going to be the grand finale of our sock box series that I started releasing this year in August, I wanted it to be kind of, you know, include a pattern as well and some notions or goodies in this case. And so the designer for this box is no other, and I'm incredibly proud about this, than the wonderful Wei Chin of the Petite Knitter, and she designed this beautiful pattern for the box, and it is called the Bearberry Socks. And I could not be happier with how they turned out. I've just started knitting on my second one, and they are supposed to be mismatched. So yeah, they are going to be kind of mismatchy socks. And it's an all-over color work, but it's incredibly enjoyable to knit with an afterthought heel, so you don't have to worry about the heel while doing the color work. And it's really easy to knit, like really easy. And yeah, I totally fell in love with working on this one. It was so wonderful. So yeah, the Bearberry Socks will be included in this month's sock box. They are just so sweet and festive, but also in a way that you can still wear them all year round, I would say. But yeah, and the colorway is called Bearberry, and it's like a neutral but warmish brown. I don't know if that's visible. I can also show it to you in this type. And it's combined with the Undyed Ecru on our Ovis sock base. And the pattern will be available in our box and will be exclusive in there until the 15th, I think, of November or so, which is incredibly kind and yeah, just wonderful of Wei Chin to organize. So yeah, these are the Bearberry Socks, and I absolutely love them and can't wait to wear them. I don't know if they turn out slightly too big for my size. I thought to go, you know, size up, to go one size bigger, just because I was afraid of my color work gauge being too tight. But I think I could totally have gone with my regular 64 stitches, and it would have been enough for my size. But yeah, these are the Bearberry Socks. And the pattern will be included in the box. And before anyone asks, because I get this question so many times, the pattern will be included in digital form and not in physical form. And we decided to do this because it's easier for the designer to potentially send you updates through Ravelry if yeah, there is something, you know, a new translation or something like that. And you will find this little card in your box if you purchase the box with my logo on it, and it has a QR code on the back. This is not the actual one because I just took one from the older boxes. It has a QR code on the back, and you will be able to scan this, and there will also be a download link at the bottom. And you will be able to scan this, put in the download or the code, and then you will receive the pattern for free. If Ravelry is not accessible for you, feel free to email me and we'll find a solution. I will put my email down below as always. So these are the Bearberry socks. What else will be in the festive winter box? So first of all, of course, we will include the yarn needed for the Bearberry socks. So there will be 200-gram skeins, and this is enough to do either the mismatched or the version, or just two of the same kind, whatever you prefer. So we made sure that there's gonna be enough yarn for both versions. But yeah, this is going to be included in the box, both on our natural non-superwash sock yarn base Ovis, which is a slightly rustic, beautifully warm and woolly sock yarn that we just introduced this year, and that was custom spun for us. So this is Ovis, and if you need a little reminder, it's a 50% Cheviot and 50% Jacobs blend, which I guess is very fitting because, you know, we're having the Jacobs fabric in this box as well somehow, so I think it's very fitting. So yeah, this is what's gonna be included as well. Then I teamed up with two friends of mine to add more goodies to this very special festive box. And one of them being my friend Nata of studio.maals, who's also my pottery teacher. And she is a wonderful potter, a great artist, an incredible craftswoman, and she makes these beautiful, you know, she has this sense for aesthetics that I just adore, and I have a lot of her work at my own home and at the studio, and I enjoy to drink and eat from them every day. And so I wanted to pass this joy on to you and include one of her monk mugs. And this is how it looks like. They are hand thrown on a wheel from natural stoneware clay and glazed in this beautiful irregular manner that I think is just absolutely stunning. And yeah, they will be included in the box as well. And I own these, I think I own a couple of these for, I don't know, ever since she first had the prototyping part of it, and she was still creating them. I own them since then, and they are just wonderful, very sturdy, because it's a rather rustic stoneware type, and just beautiful. I use them every day on the weekends when I'm at home having my coffee at home, and it's just, I just love them. And I can wholeheartedly recommend Nata's work because she's just doing beautiful things. And these will be wrapped carefully and included in the festive winter box as well. Speaking of wrapping, I also teamed up with another friend of mine whom I met over natural dyeing, which is actually pretty awesome. Because Viola of atelier.von is also a natural dyer, though she focuses on fabric and not really on wool. And we also did dye together a couple of times already, so you might have seen her or her work on my Instagram feed a couple of times. And I teamed up with her to kind of, you know, bring the vision of friendship and what we can create together into the world and into this box. And also to make people aware, because the festive season is the time of year where there's so much waste created through gift wrapping and all these kind of things. And I wanted to, you know, because this is something I deeply care about and I want to change in my own routine and where I can be active and how I can, you know, wherever I can influence. I want to make people aware of the fact that they can, you know, that waste is a terrible thing and that wherever it can be reduced, it's a good thing. And so to kind of translate this idea into something that would be in the box and also fit the festive season, we collaborated on this beautiful furoshiki cloth that Viola naturally dyed. And this is a Japanese technique of gift wrapping, and it's fully reusable. And the furoshiki technique is something that I have been wanting to learn for so long, and luckily Viola knew a lot about it, and we created these beautiful furoshiki. I'm not going to unwrap it, it's a lot bigger, but I'm not going to unwrap it to keep it, you know, crisp and clean before we will wrap the mug into it for the box transport. And what I want to invite you to is, you know, this can be a treat for yourself in case you're buying the box for yourself and unwrapping the mug that will be wrapped in this furoshiki. And then passing on the joy of gifting and reusing the furoshiki if you would like to. So that's something I want to invite you to. So yeah, these were naturally dyed as well, and they kind of fit the colorway in this yarn that was combined with this one, if I can hold them up somehow, to create the fabric. And that was the goal for it all, to, you know, have it all in the color region of rosy beige and grays and make it all fit very well. Let me see if I can hold up the bag and everything as well. So this is the bag, the fabric, or the furoshiki. This is the yarn that was used, and here is the mug. So yeah, speaking of it all, the project bag that we created from the fabric will be included as well, and it is a sock size. So you can easily, let me see if I can preview this properly somehow with everything lying around on my table right now. But it should very easily fit your sock project, even with the second skein for the color work. So that should not be, if it doesn't tangle, it should not be a problem. So it fits comfortably in this bag, and I could not be happier. Maybe a few more details on the bag, because I really deeply care about every single step that I make these kind of with. And the little strip over here will be from 100% European linen as well, and the fabric, as mentioned, is 100% sustainably produced European linen as well. And also the thread that I use to stitch this on the machine is 100% natural, so no polyester or anything in there, to keep it as natural as possible. Yeah, but I guess that is everything about the box. Let me tell you a few admin things, and then we should wrap up this episode. And so, since I know this box, the full box, will be quite a hefty price point for some of you and not necessarily accessible, I also decided to make a smaller version, like a mini box possible, for those of you who might not want to splurge on the whole thing. So this mini box will contain the pattern for the Bearberry Socks as well, will contain the yarn. And instead of all the goodies like the furoshiki and the tea, the mug and the big box, we will just have a small notions pouch made with the beautiful woolen fabric as well. So the mini box, in case you don't really want to splurge on the full thing, will be available with all the other things. And I really, really hope you're going to love it just as much as I do. So yeah, let me jump into the next section. So just a little admin section regarding this festive winter box. They will launch on Friday the 10th at 8 p.m. CET in my web shop, where you will be able to purchase it. what else is there to say? Yeah, I want to ask you to purchase these separately. So in case you were looking into also getting some yarn, please place separate orders. I'm sorry for the inconvenience regarding this, but the size of the box that I have to use for these boxes is simply too big to put into other boxes, and it would be a logistical nightmare for me to kind of add a skein or two to this, so I have to ask you to order separately. This is something I wanted to mention, and also about shipping. As I will ship these as soon as I can, so probably the beginning of next week. So there will be the weekend in between, and then I will ship them the next week. But even though this is quite ahead of time and it should be possible to get everywhere, also to overseas and everywhere, it might delay or something, so I'm not guaranteeing 100% that it will arrive before Christmas or whatever you might be celebrating. So yeah, before the holidays, I aim for a delivery before the holidays, of course, but for some international shipments it might delay or so, and I just cannot, I have no influence on these delays, so please bear with me. And yeah, I think this is everything I wanted to say. Let me check my notes, and if there was anything I might have to chat you through. Oh, I should maybe mention, with the last boxes that we had, things were going quite quickly, and I don't want to stress anyone or so, but I have to say that it might go quickly. So in case you were into the box, I would recommend checking in on time for the launch, because yeah, I don't want you to miss out or anything. Yeah, but I guess this should be everything about the boxes, and yeah, I hope you're gonna love them as much as I do, and until then, have a lovely day. Happy knitting. Bye bye.